Hi, Diana Hedrick here with www.quiltcrafts.com, and today we're going to talk about spray basting your quilt. And I don't have a big quilt to show you today because it's going to be simple, just doing a small project, but you can do the same thing with a big quilt. So how we're going to do this is, I got my batting laid out. I've already pre-cut it to the size that it's going to be for the project I'm going to spray baste. I'm going to take my favorite basting spray. I like 505, so you can use whatever you want. Silky, Sullivan's, there's a lot of them out there. And I'm just going to spray it. And after I spray the batting, then I'm going to take my backing for my project. And this is the back. I know it could look like the front, but I like to use up all my fabrics so I don't have a lot of scraps laying around, because what do you do with all those scraps? So I just take and I turn it into what they call back art. So that's what we're going to do with this here. And I'm just going to lay it on there. If you have a real big quilt, what you'd want to do is whenever you have your batting laying out, then you'll lay the top of the backing up here at the top, and then you're going to work your way to the very back. I'm going to just press that down real well. My backing is a lot bigger than my quilt project, so I've got lots of extra here. Then I'm going to flip it over, and it's really simple. And I do a lot of spray basting for machine quilting. I don't like to straight pin or safety pin or thread baste. It all gets in your way. You have to take it apart. So I always spray baste for certainly all my wall hangings that I like to do, all my miniatures, baby quilts. Probably pretty much up to a double size is probably the largest size I've done, something a little bigger than a double, so I don't know how it'd work on something really large. And then here's my top, and I'm going to take and I'm going to lay this right on here. And a lot of people, they have done the spray basting, and look how nice that looks. And spray basting works really great. But the thing that a lot of people don't do, that I do to get the best machine quilting for the projects that I do. This, by the way, is a Civil War print fabric. And so it was just a fun little project that I did. My Friday friends had put it out there in a pattern, and so I made it up. But anyway, what I'm going to do next is what I like to do is I like to take it over to my ironing board. And I'm just going to iron it just like you do whenever you're doing all your piecing and you're sewing it together. I like to iron it. It gives it that little extra sticky with the spray basting on there. And it gives it a nice, crisp, clean look to it. And then it gets it all ready, and you can iron out all your wrinkles and all your puckers. And then, of course, I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to do the back. Isn't that pretty? This is all the leftover prints. And I just did a real quick little layout with the scraps. I just measured them, cut them out. Really didn't put a lot of thought into it. And just wanted to get rid of those scraps. And that's it. And then you got it. It's like this. And it's ready to machine quilt. If I was to machine quilt this, I would probably go through with a lot of the stipple quilting in all my free areas here, which is not probably, this is what I am going to do. I'm going to stipple quilt in all the sashing areas here, and then I'm going to quilt in the ditch around all my blocks, so that way my blocks will get a nice little puffy look to it. And that's what I plan on doing. Now the next step, after you get done with the machine quilting, of course, you say, well, now we got to put the binding on it. So what are you going to do for the binding? Well, what I'm going to do for my binding is I'm going to use up some more of my leftover scraps. And so I've made this big, long, I think I measured it out. It's probably 96 inches. Can you believe this little project here is 96 inches worth of binding? But it is. And I have this really cool tool here, and they don't make them anymore, but I was lucky enough, since I'm in the notions business, to have one of these. And it was called, I think it might have been called a binding buddy. I'm not really sure what they called it at the time. But anyway, what you do is you take your fabric, and I put it through here, and I think I'm going backwards here for the way my fingers work. So anyway, so I've got it in here in this little thing, and then all you do, it's really cool, is you just take your iron and you lay it down on this. And then as you're going but it's a little harder because this is already I folded it and I did some ironing on it here. But what it does is whenever you go to do your fold for your binding, it holds the iron in place, so you can just take it and fold it and pull it through. And as you're show you this, when it's pulling through, you see then it's already folded and it's ready to go. And so after we get done doing all of our binding like this, then the next thing what I'm going to do after I've got it, you know, quilted, of course we're going to trim it up. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this on, and you can get a general idea of what it's going to look like with a scrappy binding on there. And I have a couple more samples here that I want to show you of things that I've done with scrappy bindings that I like to do a lot because I do it all the time. This is a snowman project I did a long time ago, and if you take a look, you can see that the fabrics that in the binding here are the same fabrics that I used in the guy's hats. That's one example. Here's another way. Here's another way to get rid of your scraps also, is to put it in the sashing. And this was foundation piece. And I think maybe another time I'll show you how to do a scrappy border like this. It's kind of a quilt as you go type method. And so that's another way to get rid of your scraps. It's in a project, in the same project that you're working on, because I don't like to have scraps laying around. Once I finish my project, we know we don't go back and use those scraps again. And then this is another project where I took my green fabric that I have here as a sashing, and then I turned around and I put it in the binding. And it's just the most simplest way to get rid of your scraps. And I have one more big project here that I did. It's called Lover's Knot or X's and O's or something like that. And this one here was a big, huge quilt of 1930s fabrics, which, you know, we all love 1930s. And as you can see here in this project, it's really great. Just taking all the 1930s fabrics and putting it in the binding. So you don't have to go out and buy extra fabric for your binding or pull the backing over to the top. Just take your scrappy stuff and put it on the edge. It adds the attractiveness of your quilt. And that's it for today. And I hope everybody has a great day and happy sewing.